In this video, I'm going to cover exactly how to do cold calling in B2B sales. If you don't know me, I'm Leon. I've probably done well over 100,000 cold calls over the last 4 years for multiple industries, going from small companies all the way up to enterprise, like booking enterprise meetings with companies like Redbull, Lockheed Martin, Deloitte, McKinsey, and many more. And in this video, I'm going to cover exactly how to do cold calling for B2B sales in 3 simple steps. So I'm going to show you 3 scripts that you can use going from beginner to intermediate to advanced that are adjusted to the industry that you're calling, exactly what you say, what you can do. And yeah, before we start, there's 2 guiding principles that I want to cover. So first of all, whatever word track I'm going to give you, you need to learn the script. So you need to know what to say and you need to know how to say it. These are fundamentally the only 2 things that you need to be good at cold calling and sales in general. And so how to say it, so tonality, comes down to 5 things. Now this is simplified and I'm going to make a more advanced tonality video another time, but this will more than suffice for now. So there's 3 constants. I've learned this from Alex Ramosi. So 3 constants: you need to talk loud enough so people can hear you. You need to talk slowly enough so that people can understand you, and you need to pronounce each word fully. So if you do these 3 things, you maximize comprehension, which is important because if someone doesn't understand you, they can't buy from you. So, and the 2 other things are variables. So the first one are pauses, and the second one is, does your voice go up or does it go down? And depending on what you do and how you combine these things, you either elicit a response or you put attention to something. If you pause, you put attention to whatever you said last. If you go up in your voice, aka asking a question, then you're waiting for a response from your prospect. So these are the 5 things that you need to do to have good tonality, and include these into your script as well to know exactly when you need to pause, when you need to ask a question. Now, in this video, I'm not going to go exactly over each individual word that you can say, but I've attached all the scripts in a PDF that you can just download in the description. But please watch the video before, otherwise you won't understand anything. And I'm going to walk you through it anyways. So get the scripts after this video ends. And the last thing I want to cover, no matter what script you choose, no matter what stage you're in, if you know how to say something, but you don't know what you're saying, then you won't be able to listen to your prospects efficiently. And if you don't do that, then they will notice, which will then make your cold calls worse. So you need to put all your attention to the prospect and what they're saying and the answers they're giving you. But you can't do that if you don't know the script. And memorizing the script is more important, arguably, than saying it the perfect way. And so the scientifically proven way of learning any script is you print out 2 pages of your script. You leave 1 page completely blank, you put it to the side, and then you read the script once, the other page. You read it fully while saying it out loud. After going through it once, you cross out the first word, black it out so you don't see it anymore. Then read the whole thing again, black out the second word. Do it again and let your brain fill in the blanks. If you don't know something, just check the other page to know what you're saying. And you do that, and if you go through this process, like removing 1 word at a time, you're going to have practiced the script as many times as there are words in the script itself. And so this is the fastest way to learn it. So whichever script you choose at the end, make sure to do this process. It should take like a few hours max. Before you start your calls, it will help you tremendously, I promise. So let's get into level 1. Now, this is probably for you if you've never done a cold call before in your life, or you're targeting very small company, local businesses like your local locksmith or a car detailer or whatever, and you're basically targeting SMBs, so small businesses. And it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and it gets to the point quickly, so you don't need to learn a lot. You get a yes or a no pretty quickly. There's no advanced strategies in this. And I want you to use this if you've never done a call in your life, or if you're targeting small companies. I promise you, if you just want to use the advanced versions just because it sounds better or makes you feel better, but you're not in that segment where that stuff actually works, then you're going to make your life harder than it needs to be, right? So use the version that's appropriate to your situation. So level 1 has 3 stages to it. We have the opener, we have the pitch, and we have the close. So the call is going to be pretty short. And the opener is basically just you introducing yourself. So make this really quickly. Just say, hey, I'm John calling from XYZ company. I'm out of, like, if you're calling locally, just say the city with it and just shut up, right? What you can also do, there's no right or wrong to this. Say, hey, I'm John calling from XYZ company based out of New York. How are you? Just keep it simple, right? As soon as you get a response, a lot of people are going to tell you to fuck off, which is fine. By the way, like, you need to get used to this. It's going to happen a lot. The people who respond positively, or if you ask, how are you? They say, well, I'm great. How are you? So I'm awesome. And then you go into the next phase. Like, don't small talk. No one has time for that. The how are you is the biggest thing that you do small talk wise, right? So as soon as you get a response that's not no, you move on to the pitch. And the pitch, again, is extremely simple. So first of all, you need an offer that's relevant to your, to the people that you're trying to reach. So you can't sell weight loss to a person who goes to the gym every day and is fit already. That's what I'm trying to say. So make sure it's actually relevant, or any script on earth won't work. So that's obvious. And so what you say is, we help whatever industry they're in get the outcome that your offer can solve within the time frame that you can do. And then you have your ask, which is the close, but I'll get to that. So notice that the pitch is just one sentence, and that's why it works so well. A lot of people overcomplicate cold calling a lot, and that's a huge issue, because you, imagine a stranger called you, and you don't, even if he introduces himself, so now you know his name and the company, but you still don't know who he is. You have no face to put to the name. You have nothing. So if that person doesn't come to the point quickly, especially, and that's why this is level 1, especially for local businesses or small business owners, they're usually pretty, they're not in the mood to chat with you. So you need to keep this extremely to the point in simple words, like third grade reading level, and just get to the point. So we help locksmiths. I've used to do this with an SEO offer. So let's say you're selling that. I just used to say, we help industry. So let's take locksmiths, for example. It's a local business. We help locksmiths get into the top 3 results on Google within 90 days. That's the whole pitch in one sentence, and you say exactly what you do, who you do it for, and how long it takes in one sentence. So that's the pitch, right? Insert whatever you do. It doesn't have to be one sentence, but keep it under 3 sentences. Like, if you go over that, it's too long. I'd say even 2 is the max. Like, really try to shorten it down. You don't need to give every detail in the first sentences you say. If they have questions later, you can obviously answer them and then give more detail along the way. So that's the second part. And then immediately after the pitch, we ask. So with ask, you have 2 options. Either you book a meeting straight away, or you ask them if you can send them a video. And so the video strategy I covered in the last video. So if you want to know how to structure those sales videos that you can send to people to book more meetings, you can watch that after this one. But essentially, you just have to ask something. Ask for a next step, because if you don't, then you won't get where you want to go. Now, why videos usually work better with small business owners is because they're not familiar with the whole concept of online meetings. You really need to lower your perception of what these people do in their daily life. If you say, let's get on a quick discovery call for 30 minutes, they don't understand what that is. And even if they do, no one wants to go on a discovery call for fun. So I prefer just asking for a video. So to recap, you just say, well, we help local businesses, we help locksmiths get into the top 3 on Google in 90 days. Do you want me to record a short video explaining how I can do that? That's the whole call. They say yes, you say, all right, great, where can I send it to? End the call. If they say no, great, end the call, right? The thing is here too, with objection handling. Now you're going to say, well, if they say no, what do you say in response to that? If they say, I'm not interested, what do you say to turn it around? Here's the truth. You don't. You don't. In level 1, you don't. We're calling local business owners. If they tell you, I can't take on any more clients, just say, okay, wish them a nice day, end the call. Because here, volume matters. Volume matters because these people are not high-paying clients. And so the time you take to handle these objections, even if you get through and get them to say yes to the video, they're not going to watch it. If you convince them to book a meeting, they're not going to show up. So with local business owners, it's not worth it to deal with objections most of the time. Now, if they are uncertain, if they ask you questions about like, how long is this going to take me? Obviously, like you can get into that. If they say, I don't think I have the time for this in my day, I'm too busy. Like you can say, we do this for you. So you don't have to do anything basically. Like you just have to watch the video and then we go from there. But that's like basic stuff. If they say I'm not interested, accept it and move on, right? Keep it simple. That's how you can that's how we got the best results for SMBs. Like I've coached a lot of people on this and everyone had complicated scripts, those usual things you see on all those like social platforms. You see the most advanced stuff and you want to copy it because it makes you feel good, because it sounds fancy. But at the end of the day, you want results. You want the most leads for the calls you do. And you do that by using what I just said. So that's level 1. So level 2 also works for small businesses. Depending on the offer, you have to see if level 1 or this will work better for you. But with this, you can also absolutely book mid-market companies, so like 100 employees or more. That definitely works. It's still simple, and it works especially well if you already know who your ICP is, so who like your ideal customer profile is, who you're actually trying to reach. And the only difference between level 1 and level 2 is we add one step, which is usually important, especially if you go for slightly bigger companies. So we still have the opener, which is the exact same like in level 1. So you just say who you are, what company you're calling from, and some sort of question if you want to, like, how are you? Or just stay quiet, let them respond. Then we have the pitch, which is also the exact same like before. But now, here's the important part, which makes these calls like 10 minutes longer than usually. It's a third step, which is qualify. So now, let's take the video for example. If they agree to get the video, you don't say yes and just hang up the call, but you take more information from them so that the closer on the call later has a higher chance of closing them. So now it goes less from I just want leads to I want qualified leads that are also going to buy, which is why everyone can go to level 2. Like this works for any business, even local businesses, you can do this, right? So level 1 is only for small companies, and it works if you've never done cold calls in your life before or you're just starting out. If you have done a little more calls, it doesn't matter if you're now still only doing local businesses or slightly bigger companies, you can go to level 2. And so qualifying questions, basically you want to figure out 4 things. So you want to figure out, do they have the budget to buy your thing? Do they have the authority to make decisions? Do they have a need? So do they actually need what you're selling? And what's the timeline? So if you combine these 4 letters, you get BANT, so B-A-N-T, which stands for budget, authority, need, and timing. And it's a qualification framework developed by IBM that you can use to judge whether a lead that said yes to the video or yes to the meeting is actually qualified for your stuff. And so how do you do this? Because you can't just ask, well, do you have the money to buy my thing? That won't work. Like, if you don't believe me, try it. You'll see what type of responses you get. So for budget, you have to like kind of take a different approach from a different angle. So what you can ask is, how many employees do you have? That's an example, especially if you're calling local businesses. Let's say they say, oh, it's only me and a friend. We're two people. They probably won't have the budget to buy a $5,000 thing. They probably won't. Probably even less. They won't have it. But if they say, yeah, I have 20 people on my payroll, that means they have a bunch of money to spend, which means they probably have enough margins left to actually invest in your thing. So that's a simple question where you can gauge whether someone actually can afford your thing. Now, if you go for mid-market companies, so bigger companies, usually you won't need this question at all because they will have the budget. It's pretty much guaranteed that they will have it. Now, what you can also ask is what they have tried before and how much they spent on that. So if you're selling ads, you just ask them, have you ever worked with a marketing agency before? You say, yes. Really, how'd that go? And then they tell you, then you can ask, how much did you pay them to get that result that they got, which wasn't good? And then you get an idea of how much they spent with the old company. And people are going to tell you this because they want to let you know what they paid before, which they're like not willing to pay again. Basically, they're trying to, haggle you on the price, which is fine. You don't have to do that. But people always respond positively to this question. They always give you the number. So now you know how much they spent on a similar service before and for how long they did it. So that also gives you an estimation for the budget. Now, for authority, you just simply ask, do you make the decisions when it comes to XYZ topic? Do you make the decisions when it comes to marketing? Do you make the decision when it comes to your sales process? You get the point. This is a simple question. Don't overcomplicate it. No one is going to think like something weird. They know what you're doing, but it's not like they can't know your intentions behind that question. So that's really simple. Now, let's skip need for a second and go into timing because that's also really simple. Usually, I like to skip this completely because I don't think you can really give someone a chance to judge when they want to implement something if they don't even know what it looks like. But if you do want to do it and your offer is really clear, you can say something like, well, let's say we get on a call, or let's say you see the video and everything is to your liking, like that's exactly what you need. When would you kind of be looking to implement this? And then some people are going to say, well, as fast as possible, which is great. Some people are going to say, well, I'm not really looking to implement anything right now anyways. It's something for next year. And then you know, well, that person is probably unqualified. So you can filter out some people with this question as well. And then need is basically trying to find out if the person actually has the problems that your product solves. And so we do this, and you ask the most questions in this part if you want to, by basically connecting it back to the offer and just asking them if they have those problems. So let's take the SEO example from earlier, right? We solve the problem of them basically not being visible. So they don't get enough organic clients from Google. And so in the qualification, after you ask, by the way, do you make the decisions around like marketing related stuff, which is authority? They say yes. Like, okay, I've heard that a lot of insert their industry. So I've heard that a lot of like locksmiths heavily rely on Google because they get like most of their customers from there. Is that right? Yeah, we get a lot of customers from Google. Okay. So now you have a problem because they're relying on Google, but they still don't show up at the top. So now you have a problem you can solve. And you can do this with pretty much anything. So you ask, well, I've heard that industry or ICP or whoever you're talking to often has insert the common problems that they have. Does that sound about right? And then you get a yes or a no, but they confirm the problem that they have. Right? So now you can stop there because you confirmed they have the problem. And you also kind of confirm it if they say yes to the initial pitch anyways. So most of the time this is enough. But if you want to go even deeper to increase show rates, to increase like closing rates and stuff, then you can also go deeper into whatever problem they have. So if they mention some problem, you just like keep digging. You say, really, tell me more about that. All right, how'd that go? What else have you tried in the past? How'd that go? Really, why do you think it didn't work? Okay, what else have you tried? Ah, okay, interesting. How did that go? And you keep going through this pain cycle of asking them what they did before, how that went. They're going to say it went bad. And then you ask them, and then you like acknowledge that and ask, what else have you tried? And you go back. Ah, how did that go? What else have you tried? And you keep doing that until they say nothing else. So that's how you elicit pain from someone, which helps with the conversion rates and the ask, which is the next step. So the more pain you find, the more likely someone is going to comply with your request. It's like lighting a fire under someone and then asking them to step out of it. They're going to do it every time because it hurts. And the last step is just summarizing. So because we asked the question in the pitch anyways, like we ask, can I send you a video? Or is this interesting to talk about? And then you say your questions. At the end, you have to summarize what you're going to do as a next step. They already agreed to the video or the meeting, but you have to repeat it so they don't forget, because people do forget because they just focus on answering your questions. So you say, okay, I think this is definitely like a great fit. I'm going to send you the video where I'm going to cover how to solve insert problems that they just gave you. And I'm going to send it to this email. Sound good? Cool. End the call. So now you reminded them of what's going to happen next, and they're more likely to comply with that request. Level 3, really quickly before I get into that, if you're still calling small businesses, local businesses, stuff like that, this is overkill. Stick to level 2, it's more than enough. So this like really is too much for a local business owner. You're going to get worse results than if you use the level 2 one. So level 3 is more for if you're going for mid-market to like global enterprise companies. So the biggest companies you can think of, this works for them as well if you want to book meetings for those. The introduction stays the same. You say who you are, what company you're calling from. Now, I don't need to cover that. I already did that in the other steps. Now we have a new step, which is called permission. Now, the permission-based opener basically asks them if they want to listen to your pitch or your call. And a lot of people say these don't work. A lot of people say they do. In my experience, and I've done like over 100,000 cold calls, probably even more, these work very well if you're going for bigger companies, right? And so don't be cringe about it. Don't ask for like, you have 27 seconds and you can hang up after right away. Don't do that. Like that only works if you're targeting other salespeople as your like avatar. If you're not, it's just gonna like go horribly wrong. But if you don't believe me, just try it out. The way we do this is very simple. Like, you say who you are, you ask, how are you? They say, great, how are you? I'm doing great. Do you have a quick minute? I'll explain what this is about right away. Very simple. They're going to say yes. If they say no, just move on. Right? We don't have time for this. You can call them back later. If they say yes, we move on to the third step, which is a bucket question. Now, we deviate from the standard pitch that we used before because, especially with bigger companies, you need relevance. And what a lot of people get wrong with relevance is they think they need to personalize. So they're going to start spending 15 minutes before each call researching the company or use AI or whatever they want to do. They spend time to research something that recently happened in the company to then mention it at the start of the call. That works to some extent, but it's just a bunch of wasted time where you could just do more dials. Now you can also be relevant without personalization by just saying exact problems right away that are relevant to them. And you also need to prove that you're an expert and you need to address them specifically. So how do we do that in the fastest way possible? Well, we use a bucket question. So a bucket question is structured like this. You say, yeah, I talk to a lot of insert their title every day, and they usually tell me they have like problem 1 and problem 2 and also problem like 3. How relevant is that to you? Or do you have like completely other challenges right now? Now that's a structure. Let me break it down. So first of all, you say, I talk to a lot of job title. So you say who you're calling. I talk to a lot of operations managers. I talk to a lot of CEOs. I talk to a lot of IT head of IT, whatever you're reaching, right? Whoever you need to reach as a decision maker to sell your thing. So that way you immediately said, this is for you in the first 4 words. The next step, 2 words that are very important, is say every day, because that proves you're an expert. You talk to people like them every single day. You can also make it more specific and say, like a week ago, I was at an event and I talked to a lot of insert job title and they told me X. So this is how you prove that it's for them and you're an expert in 1 sentence. And then you say 2 to 3 problems max. And these need to be absolutely relevant to whoever you're selling to. So at the start, if you're just starting out with this, then you won't know, so just guess, but then take the feedback that you get and iterate from there. The more relevant these are, the better results you're going to get, obviously. Now, don't do more than 3 because it's going to overwhelm them and the whole pitch is just going to take too long. So we don't have that much time. We have a minute roughly. No one is going to time you, but we just want to keep it as short as possible, always. So you say that, and then we have the question at the end, which is an open question with also giving them a different path. So we say, how relevant is that to you? So that's not a yes or no question. It's they have to actually give you a proper response, which is awesome. And you also follow up by saying, or do you have completely other challenges right now? Because here's the thing, your product might solve 10 different problems. It's totally normal, especially if you're also a bigger business. You don't just solve one. But you can't mention 10 problems right away. So you mention 2 to 3 in your pitch, which are the 2 to 3 most common ones. But if you ask that at the end, you give them a way out and you give them a way to tell you the other problems they have. If you don't say that, and the 2 to 3 are not relevant, even if they have all other 7 that you solve, you might never know and they might never know, and you just lose the deal. So you ask that question to give them the way to tell you about the other problems they have. Once they agree, we move on to qualifying, which is now also including the banned questions that I covered earlier. And you also have to go very specific on the problems that they gave you from the bucket question. So if they say, yeah, we have all 3, then you just say, okay, which of these is the most important? You get 1. And you ask more questions about that. As soon as you're done with the first question, you go into the second one, then the third one. As soon as you do all that, you're going to uncover 5 more problems. And you need to really dig deep in this. And don't be afraid to stretch this out a lot. People get into this flow of conversation, and that's the ideal scenario that you want to be in, because you want to achieve 2 things. You want information that you know they're a good fit for you, but you also need massive amounts of reasons, so pain points, for to be able to book companies of this size. And so just ask and keep asking, and that's the first point I made in the video. Learn the script, because otherwise you won't be able to actively listen to your prospects and you won't be able to do a good qualifying stage. This is one of the most important parts of the entire call. So as soon as you have that and there's no specific set end, you just feel when it feels right, you just do this. And I'm guessing at this point you already did a lot of calls, so you will know what I'm talking about. Then you do the ask, which in this case is like a meeting or a video. But if you went through all of this, I just asked for a meeting, ditch the video in this case. You can use that as a backup in case, they don't have time for a meeting or something like that. By the way, quick tip for asking for meetings, always suggest times and assume they're going to book anyways instead of asking for it. So you say, yeah, how does today at 2 or 4 p.m. work, or is tomorrow at 10 a.m. better? So you give them 3 different times or 4 at different time sections. So 1 in the afternoon, 1 in the morning. And the other important thing to do is multi-threading. So that just means getting 2 or more decision makers on the first call. So the way to do that is you just ask them on the call, who else is involved in this process, who also needs to be on the meeting, or something along those lines. And you get their email, you get their contact data, you invite them in right away. Now, that might sometimes need coordinating after, so you don't book it on the call, you just send them an email with times. That totally works. Just don't worry about it. But Companies are going to absolutely love you for that. The sales cycle is going to be much shorter. It's going to be less back and forth. You save a lot of costs by just getting more people on the first call. But if you don't, like, it's better to have one person than none. It's still a good achievement. So just book those people in. And now the last step is to handle objections. Now that's the difference between the other two levels and this one is we actually want to handle objections if they come at this stage, right? Or anywhere in this last part of the call. Now, if people tell you right away, just, go away, I'm not interested, just move on. Call them again later, like recycle them every 2 months or something. But if they do it down here, like you already know they are interested, they're qualified, so you want to, like, it's worth it to spend the time to actually convince them to book, because it's going to help both of you. So the way we do this is we have a 3-step process to basically overcoming those objections, and it's the AAA framework. So first you acknowledge, so you say something like, yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. I'd say the same thing. Yeah, totally get it. Something along those lines, so you acknowledge it. The second step is to associate. So you basically, objections, you can think of them, they're always in a negative frame. So as soon as someone brings up an objection, they think it's negative and they think it's a reason they shouldn't buy. What you have to do is transform that into a reason that they should buy. So you can say something like, yeah, I totally get it. By the way, I just had a conversation earlier with one of our now clients. When they signed up, they said the exact same thing, and it actually shows you're serious about solving this problem. If you say this, now you turn the whole objection upside down. It's a positive thing. What they just said means they should buy. And then the third thing is to either ask or to answer. So if you need more details on the objection and it's like a surface level, you ask a question back instead of answering it after doing those first 2 steps. Or if it's very clear and it's the actual real objection, then you just answer it. Now, there's way more to handling objections, and that's way too much for this video. But I'm going to make a separate video for that. So just like subscribe so you don't miss it. And that's basically it. So now you have 3 levels. You have 3 scripts that I'm going to put in the description for you to download for completely free that you can get and just implement, adjust to your offer, and stuff like that. Also, we have the Sales Ascension Roadmap. It's the first link in the description. If you're a leader, so you lead a sales team or it's your company, we break down the 5 main constraints every B2B company goes through from 0 to 100 million regarding to their sales processes. We've recently implemented steps of this in a software company and got them from 80 to 90 million in yearly recurring revenue after just 10 months. It includes all the scripts, templates, messaging, everything you need to basically just copy and paste into your sales process. Again, first link in the description, takes about 30 seconds to get. It's my gift to you. Take a look and enjoy.